Hello everyone, this is Mumbo and welcome back to another Minecraft video, and in this one we're going to be doing something really quite special. I'm going to be teaching you guys how to go from a Redstone noob all the way through to a Redstone Pro. Now as you can see behind me, I have done quite a bit of redstone in my time and I've built a whole ton of redstone contraptions, so I like to think over the many years that I've spent doing this, I sort of kind of know what I'm talking about. So hopefully I'll be able to pass on some of that advice onto you guys so you can start work on your own awesome redstone contraptions. So tip number one of today's video is to subscribe to some Redstone YouTubers. Okay, now that might sound a little bit rich coming from a Redstone YouTuber, but honestly this is going to come as a massive help. And I'm not talking about the sorts of YouTubers that just download Redstone Worlds and showcase them in their videos, because although they can be entertaining, you're probably not going to learn too much from them. I'm talking about the sorts of YouTubers that actually build the redstone contraptions and show you how they work. I'll put some links to those down in the description, but there is also one fairly handsome, mustachioed man that does come to mind. Next, I would suggest downloading some form of Redstone World, for example this one right here, and taking a look at a whole bunch of redstone contraptions. Just take a look at how they work, flick some levers, see how they function and how they go about doing what they do. For example, this thing right here is a drop-down chandelier lighting system, and by the look of things we've got a double piston extender that can also be pulled out of the way, which allows a block swapping circuit to happen. My word, that is a fancy circuit! Can't believe I even built that. Next, I would suggest going into this menu right here and clicking this button right here and creating something known as a testing world. Make sure that you use capitals in the title, because otherwise you're not going to be able to do good redstone. Then you set yourself into creative mode, which you can do just by doing that. Then turn off generating structures because you don't want any villages to ruin your lovely sandstone landscapes. Click world type, super flat, customize, and then go to presets and head down to redstone ready, because you, my friend, are redstone ready. Create new world, and there we go. We now have ourselves a blank canvas ready to start building a whole ton of redstone contraptions. Now that you've done all of that, it is time to actually start placing some redstone, and the first thing that I would suggest doing before you do any form of redstone circuits or complicated things, just experiment. Place down a lever, and then place down some redstone and just sort of chuck it around and see if you can work out how to power a piston, for example. Soon you will learn that you have to run the redstone directly into the side of the piston as opposed to running it off the edge like that, because that's not going to power it. These are all things that you will pick up through experimenting, and I would highly suggest just popping into your redstone testing world and doing some testing. But now I would say it's about time that you learnt what each and every component did. And I will warn you, this part is going to be a tiny bit long-winded. Redstone dust has a maximum signal length of 15 blocks, and it is what we use to connect up all of our different redstone components. The redstone block is a power source block and it can be moved by pistons, but one interesting thing about the redstone block is that it can't be pushed upwards by pistons due to bud mechanics. I'll get onto those a little bit later. The redstone torch will power all redstone that is directly next to it, as well as the block that is placed directly above it. So as you can see, this redstone dust is powered. Now the redstone torch can also be placed on the side blocks, and as you can see, if the redstone torch is placed on a block that is being powered, then it will turn off, making it inverted. The repeater will extend out redstone signals. So as mentioned earlier on, redstone dust has a max signal strength of 15. Now this repeater right here would extend out that signal strength, allowing us to continue on the redstone line. There is, however, a little bit of a sacrifice in that there is a delay involved. This is a 1/10 of a second delay, or a 1 tick delay, and it goes right the way up to 4 ticks, which is 4/10 of a second. The regular piston will push but not pull blocks. The sticky piston will push and pull blocks because the block sticks to the face of the piston. Now the maximum number of blocks that you can move using a piston is 12 total blocks. The comparator is just, it's just really confusing. In fact, you'd need a whole video explaining it, which thankfully I have actually done. Link to that one on the screen and also down in the description. The dispenser will dispense out items, but also has some special cases. The dropper will always dispense out items. So for example, inside both of these, we have got ourselves a spawn cow spawn egg. And if we hit the dropper, you can see we get the spawn egg. And if we hit the dispenser, we get a cow. The redstone lamp turns on when it receives a redstone input. A stone button gives a redstone pulse of 10 ticks or 1 second, and the wooden button gives a redstone pulse of 15 ticks or 1.5 seconds. The lever will give a constant redstone output when it's flicked. A stone pressure plate will give a redstone output when a mob or player stands on top of it, just like this, but a wooden pressure plate will also give an output when a mob or player stands on it, but also give an output for entities, such as items. The trap chest will give a signal strength of 1 when it is opened, which makes it perfect for use in redstone traps. The hopper takes items from the top and transports them in the direction of the funnel, but one interesting thing about the hopper is it will always take from below before it goes across. So this hopper right here is actually taking items from that hopper, and this hopper is taking items from this hopper. So in theory, when we place the item in, it should go down across like this. It won't go into that chest. Instead, it will be taken by this hopper and end up in this chest, which, as you can see, is fully functional. The daylight sensor will give a redstone output depending on the time of day and the strength of the sunlight. So for example, right now the sun is pretty high in the sky, so it's giving off a fairly strong redstone output. And finally, the observer will give a redstone output when it detects a block update, for example, a block being placed, or perhaps wheat growing, or a melon growing, anything like that. And there's plenty of information about block updates down in the description. One that I guess I totally almost forgot is slime blocks. Slime blocks could definitely be seen as a redstone component because, as you can see from this demonstration right here, they stick to one another, which makes them, well, amazing for redstone. Really, you can build ridiculous contraptions using this mechanic right here, and it was one of the biggest changes to redstone. Blimey O'Reilly, that was a lot of information. I feel like my brain is going to explode. I sort of agree with you. I'm sorry that I had to bombard you with all of that, and I hate to say it, but that isn't going to be the last bombarding in today's video, because now we're going to get on to powering and how various different types of powering work in Minecraft. So first things first, we're going to be taking a look at redstone powering and how redstone powers blocks. Now I want you guys to get used to two different terms right here. We're going to have soft powering and we're going to have hard powering, and I'll explain those in the next couple seconds. So when we flick this lever right here, you can see the redstone runs directly into the block, but as you can see, we do not get a redstone output. And that is because this block right here is being soft powered. Now that redstone is powering the block, and this block is powered. If we were to place a piston facing in this direction here, you can see that the block is powered because this redstone is hitting directly into the side of it, but there's a reason why this redstone isn't giving an output, and that is because the block is soft powered. Now hard powering is this situation right here where we have a repeater running into the side of the block. The repeater will hard power the block, allowing us to take a redstone output through it, which means that we can run out this redstone dust. Now the interesting thing about repeaters is that they can also take redstone outputs from soft power blocks. They work exactly the same as the piston just did right here. It can take the power output from this block and then continue powering the redstone signal. And of course this situation here works as well because this repeater is hard powering the block, which means that the repeater of course can take a redstone output just like this. But this doesn't just work in straight lines. For example, over here we have redstone running into a repeater, which is hard powering this block, which means we can take a redstone output out the side. And also because the block is hard powered, we can take a redstone output from the top. We could also take a redstone output from this area down at the bottom here. And of course we could take a redstone output out the back here and off from this side as well. So that block is hard powered. Now in this example, this redstone is soft powering this block, which means that the repeater can take a redstone output out the side just like that. But if we were to run redstone out like this, obviously it's not going to be powered because that block right there is soft powered. Now one thing that I just want to mention is all redstone components can activate with soft power blocks. So for example, this redstone torch, because this block is being soft powered, then it will take the redstone output. If we were to place a piston on the side of this thing, then that thing will work. If we were to place a redstone lamp on the side, then it would activate because that block is powered. It's just not hard powered, which means that we can't take another redstone output from it. But it doesn't just stop there. Any block that redstone is placed on top of will be soft powered when that redstone activates. So when we flick this lever right here, you can see all of our redstone turns on. This repeater is being powered because this redstone that is on top of this block is powering that block right there. That redstone torch is turned off. This piston has extended because this block is being powered. This piston is extended because this block is being powered. This redstone lamp is turned on because this block is powered. And this redstone lamp has turned on because this block has powered as well. There are only 4 components in the game that can hard power blocks. We have got the comparator, we have got the repeater, which we mentioned earlier on. We have got the redstone torch, which works a little bit strangely in that the redstone torch's tip, the thing that is pointing into, is the thing that's going to be hard powered. So this block right here isn't even powered by the redstone torch. This redstone torch isn't interacting with this block in the slightest. And if we remove this block, you can see that is the case. It is the block above the redstone torch that gets hard powered, which then powers our redstone. So if it was facing upwards like this, and then we had our blocks out like that, that will work in exactly the same fashion. Then finally, we've got the brand spanking new observer block, which hard powers the block out the back right there when it detects a block update. One thing that I should probably mention is all redstone inputs hard power their block. So for example, a lever, when you place a lever on top of a block and power it, that block is hard powered. Same thing goes for buttons, we've got pressure plates, tripwire hooks and everything like that. Any form of redstone input will give a hard powering. So when it comes to powering redstone components, you either need to run a redstone signal directly into the side of the components, just like this. And for example, we can use a repeater right there as well, so it can be soft powered or hard powered, or you run the redstone signal directly into a block, which is next to the redstone component, for example, in this situation right here. Or you could just place all of the redstone components along the side of a redstone line. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is you either directly power the redstone component, or you power the blocks that are next to the redstone component. And once again, these blocks can be hard powered or they can be soft powered. It doesn't really matter. Now, the only situation where it doesn't really work in terms of powering that I see quite a lot in early redstone builds is people think that this redstone right here is going to power these redstone lamps, but as you can see it doesn't, and that is because the redstone signal runs around like this. It doesn't go into these blocks, it goes across in this direction, which means these things aren't being powered. The blocks underneath this redstone is being powered, but that doesn't matter in this situation. These are not going to be powered in this circumstance. Once again, I would highly suggest experimenting with everything you've just learned right there. Just create some redstone circuits and see what you can do, but just as you thought you were getting the hang of things, pistons come along and ruin your day, at least in Minecraft PC edition, because we've got what is known as the bud pistons. As you can see, we powered this line right here. All of these blocks are powered. This piston obviously isn't powered because it's not next to it until we cause the piston to block update. And then it extends. And that is because with pistons, these blocks right here are powering the piston, but the piston hasn't detected it yet, and it will only realize it's being powered when you cause it an update. So for example, we turn it off, it stays extended because it's like, hey, I'm still powered, and then as soon as you update it, it goes, whoa, I'm not powered anymore, and it retracts. Now, there are plenty of ways to get around this. Obviously, it works in this situation right here, but it also works in the diagonal as well. I just feel I should probably mention and show you that one working as well. But the way that we get around this is by instantly updating the piston. So, for example, a piston extending and retracting actually causes a block update, and that will update the piston. So that is why this thing right here works. Honestly though, I wouldn't concern yourself too much with bud powered pistons at this point in time because they are a little bit confusing. However, if you do want more information, yeah, you guys guessed it. There's a whole bunch of it down in the description. One quick thing that I just want to touch on is vertical redstone signals, because obviously we can transmit redstone signals horizontally absolutely fine. We've learned that now. But as far as vertical is concerned, well, there's a handful of different ways to do it. First off, we've got the redstone torch tower, which relies on redstone torches powering blocks, which powers redstone torches and so on and so forth, right the way up to the top, and they can go right the way from the bottom all the way to the top of the world, because of course we're not relying on redstone signal strengths or anything like that. Then we have the observers, which work in a pretty similar fashion to the redstone torches, but of course they only give a 1-tick pulse. And then finally we've got this rather interesting looking one right here, which is a redstone line running up through a bunch of slabs. But as you can see, we power it and the piston extends. Now this is due to the way that redstone works with transparent blocks. So as you can see right here, in this system, when we power this redstone on the top, obviously the redstone runs up like this, and it's not going to power this redstone down here because this block right here is cutting off that redstone line. If this block wasn't here, then of course that redstone would be powered, but that block is there, which means it cuts it off and the redstone goes up like this. But with a transparent block, as you can see, the redstone runs down here and it also runs across the top as well. So the line is not broken, it goes down like this, and it also goes up like that. The one interesting thing about transparent objects though is that they do not run downwards. Now if you head over into this situation, you can see that that is basically happening over and over again. So we have like a diagonal redstone line running up like this, which allows us to snake a redstone line right the way upwards, giving us a fast and easy to build vertical transport system. So let's do a quick recap. You've subscribed to a bunch of Redstone YouTubers, you've taken a look at a whole ton of redstone contraptions, you've got yourself a redstone testing world, you've experimented, you now know what all of the redstone components do, you've learned how to power things, soft powering, hard powering and all that, you've learned how piston powering works, you've done vertical redstone systems, and now we're going to be taking a look at some circuits that you can use. Now these are like the backbone of all redstone contraptions, so it's very important that you know these. This is just a quick disclaimer to say that all of these circuits have hundreds of different designs to them, so your T flip-flop might look a little bit different to my T flip-flop, my favourite double piston extender might look a little bit different to your favourite double piston extender. Those of you who are really good at redstone will know a whole bunch of different designs for each one of these different circuits to use in various different circumstances. So first things first, we have got the different logic circuits. Now I've done a whole bunch of videos on these in the past, and I'll put links to those on the screen and also down in the description. They will explain everything that you need to know about the AND gate, we've got the OR gate, and also the NOT gate. Then we have got the monostable circuits. Now here we have the rising edge monostable circuit and this one right here is the falling edge. Now what a monostable circuit does is it shortens down a pulse. So when we hit this button right here, you can see that at the start of the pulse, we get a very quick flash through the repeater. Now that's actually a 1 tick pulse, so we hit this button, as you can see, 1 tick flies through the repeater right there. And then on this one, because it's a falling edge one, we should get that pulse at the end of the button press. So rising edge, we get the pulse at the start of the button press. Falling edge, we get the pulse at the end of the button press. Pulse extenders pretty much do what they say on the tin. We hit this button right here, we get a 10 tick pulse going into the circuit, but as you can see, that pulse has been extended out by these two comparators right here. Now I won't go into any information about why this thing works, but it works incredibly well, and the more comparators that you add, the longer the pulse you are going to get. A T flip-flop will sort of do the opposite of the monostable circuit in that it will convert a redstone pulse into a constant redstone output. So if we hit this button right here, you can see that the repeater turns on, and when we hit the button again, the repeater turns off. Now, I see a lot of comments down in the comment section, well, why don't you just use a lever? I mean, yeah, if you're converting a button press into a constant redstone output, then you could use a lever, but the issue is you can't really do that inside large redstone circuits. There are a ton of occasions where you need to convert a pulse into a constant redstone output on the inside of a bigger redstone contraption, in which case a lever isn't quite going to cut it. This little circuit is known as the RS NOR latch, which works in a sort of similar fashion to the T flip-flop right here, but it's a latch. So if we hit this button right here, you can see absolutely nothing will happen. We could do this all day long, nothing is going to change until we hit this button, and then the redstone output will flip. And then we can hit this button all day long, absolutely nothing will happen until we hit this button, and that will flip once again. Now this is a slightly more advanced circuit for slightly more advanced redstone contraptions, but it's often used in button selector panels and also security systems. Double piston extenders are fantastic. We flick the lever, we get the double extension and also the full double retraction. Now in theory they're actually quite complicated because we need this piston to extend and this one on the opening, and then when we close it all up we need this one to retract, then this one to retract, and then this one to extend then retract. But thankfully due to this tiny little circuit right here, it all happens very quickly. Now, as with all of these circuits, these come in a lot of shapes and sizes. We've got vertical, we have downward, we've got flush with the wall, flush with the floor, we've got triple piston extenders, quadruple piston extenders, and all that, but they all get very complicated. So for now, we're just going to take a look at this little one. Block update detectors are still useful in large redstone circuits, and this thing right here is one of the smallest designs for a bud switch. Now, if you listened in the earlier section, you might be able to work out how this thing works. This redstone block is bud powering this piston right here. So it's powered, but it doesn't quite realize it until we cause it an update, in which case the piston extends, pushing the redstone block outside of the powering zone, which means that the piston isn't powered, and it immediately updates, retracting, which means we get ourselves a working bud switch. And finally, for the redstone circuits featured in today's video, we've got this, which is the Redstone Clock. Now, a Redstone Clock is essentially a repeating or cycling redstone output. So you can see this comparator is flashing on and off every now and again, and that is because inside these hoppers we've got an item travelling back and forth, and then the comparator takes the output, and this can be turned off by powering one of these hoppers. That was a lot of things to learn, and once again I would highly suggest experimenting, but also I would suggest doing your research as well. Hop onto YouTube and look up different variations of these circuits, because as I mentioned earlier on, it is very good to have at least 3 or 4 different designs for each one of these circuits in your belt, so that you can use them in various different situations. But now that we have gone through all of the things that you really need to learn as far as the basics are concerned, I think it's time that I give you guys a bit of a homework assignment. Assignment number 1 is to create a 2x2 piston door that opens using pressure plates. So when the player walks over the pressure plates, the door will open up, allowing the player to walk on through. Now this is going to make use of your knowledge of redstone inputs, and hard powering is also going to make use of your knowledge of redstone torch towers potentially, and of course the powering of pistons. It's a little bit of a challenge, take as long as you need, but I'm now going to suggest that you pause the screen now, work on it, and then we can take a look at my solution. So this is what I've come up with. When we stand on these pressure plates right here, you can see that our redstone gets powered underneath, which powers the block, which unpowers the redstone torch, which then unpowers this block, which unpowers this redstone, which retracts both sets of sticky pistons. As you can see, we can walk on through, and then when we step off, this redstone turns off, which activates our redstone torches, which hard powers both of these blocks, which powers the redstone on top, which means that these pistons right here are being powered. If you've got something that looks a little bit different, that is totally fine. Just take a look at mine and try and work out exactly what is going on. Next, I would like you guys to create an alarm system that is activated by a tripwire. So you walk over the tripwire, that activates the alarm system, and then the alarm can only be turned off by hitting a separate button. Now this is going to make use of a number of different redstone circuits. We're going to have redstone clocks, and I would also suggest using an RS NOR latch. So I'll see what you guys do with that one. And here it is. So you should recognize the pair of these. This is the RS NOR latch circuit, and this is the redstone clock that we saw earlier on. When we stand on this tripwire right here, you can see our RS NOR latch switches over, which means that this redstone is unpowering this block. So this block is no longer powered, which unlocks this hopper, allowing the item to travel back and forth, which turns on our redstone clock, which activates this note block. And the only way that we can turn off this alarm, if we walk over the tripwire again, you can see it's exactly the same. The alarm stays on. The only way that we can turn it off is by hitting this button right here. Perfect. And finally, I want you guys to create a hidden in the wall crafting bench system. So up here, I have got a mock-up of what our wall is going to look like, and I want there to be a crafting bench in this block right here. So when we flick a lever or hit a button, that block will retract and it will reveal a crafting bench that then gets moved forward so that it is completely flush with this wall here. Flat with the wall, as if there wasn't a gap there. I hope that makes sense. So for this one, you would have had to use your brain just a tiny bit to work out that this piston has to retract first, but also it has to extend last, which means that we need to use a pulse extender down on the bottom. So when we flick this lever right here, you can see that this piston retracts really quite quickly, and then this piston extends, but then it should take quite a long time to extend back, because if it didn't do that, then of course it would push the crafting bench upwards, and if it didn't retract fast enough, then it would push this block outwards, basically breaking the system. Now of course there are much smaller designs than this system right here. I personally have created an absolutely tiny one, but I thought this was a better way of showing off all of the logic. And as I say, if your design looks a little bit different, then that is absolutely no problem. Now I think it's safe to say that we have covered a lot of ground in today's video. I mean, just take a look at this place. It is filled to the brim with various different testings and demonstrations. I hope that you found it informative, and I hope that you have at least gathered up some information and put it inside your brain box, and you have gone from a complete redstone noob to a sort of semi-pro at this point in time. Now, if you did enjoy this sort of video, please let me know down in the comment section, because it has been a ton of fun to record. But unfortunately, that is all I've got time for today. If you did enjoy this video, please hit that like button. And if you really loved it, then make sure to subscribe. But thanks for watching, guys. This has been Mumbo, and I'm out. I'll see you later.